It is officially the offseason, which means it's trade request season. A key member of the Bengals defense wants out. My reaction, my thoughts on if he has a trade market, and much, much more right now on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Hi again, everyone, and welcome in to CBT. I'm James Rapien of BengalsTalk.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, join the 52,000 plus Bengals fans, and we're inching close to that 53,000 mark that have subscribed. And be sure to check us out wherever you get your podcast. That's Apple, that's Spotify, that's Amazon. And let's dive in because Germaine Pratt wants out. Germaine Pratt has requested a trade. Ian Rapoport of NFL Network, Tom Pelissero of NFL Network, they were the first two to report this. Hopefully you've read about it already at BengalsTalk.com. This is interesting. It's interesting because Germaine Pratt, in my mind, was a cut candidate. Germaine Pratt, in my mind, given the fact that he's 28 years old, is entering the final year of his contract, is set to make $5.6 million with a cap hit of $7.9 million, and the Bengals could free up essentially $6 of that $8 million in cap space. Well, I thought he was a cap casualty candidate, someone that would get cut. And maybe he knows that and is trying to get out. But let's first go with what the national reporting is, which is obviously coming from Germaine Pratt's side, and then I'll give you my thoughts. Germaine Pratt is wants out. He's 28 years old. He's coming off of a career high 143 tackles. He was one player. It's so funny when you see these stats, and Tom Pelissero had this one of only three players with 140 tackles and 6+ turnover plays, along with Zach Bond and Zaire Franklin. And Tom Pelissero had that one. Obviously, that's coming from Germaine Pratt's agent. And so, what would his market be like? Well, Ian Rapoport says that there is a market for him. And I think that's interesting. And I'm going to pull up Ian's tweet here that talks about the market for Germaine Pratt. And then I'll give you my thoughts. He said, quote, "The Bengals will have a market should they decide to trade him in order to free up more cash to continue re-signing their offensive weapons. Pratt is still only 28 years old, a leader in the locker room, wears the green dot, and has extensive playoff experience." So a couple of things. One, I think Germaine Pratt has been a good Bengal. There's no doubt about it. Germaine Pratt has been a good Bengal. I also think that it was time to turn over the roster a bit. And maybe he's trying to get ahead of this instead of getting cut and trying to control his own destiny. And that's why you go with the trade request here. But I don't think the Bengals plan on bringing Germaine Pratt back. And so I think they will be open to a trade. I'm not sure they're going to love this trade request, public trade request. I'm not sure they love that. I think what's interesting here, though, is that the national reporting is basing this around he had a really good relationship with Lou Anarumo. And they fired Lou Anarumo. Obviously, January 6th, they fired Lou Anarumo. 3 weeks later, they hire Al Golden. But Al Golden has a relationship with Germaine Pratt. I think that's kind of odd. Al Golden was the Bengals linebackers coach in 2020 and 2021, helped build the foundation, create the foundation that Germaine Pratt has played with over the past few years. That led to that 3-year, $20.25 million extension that he signed with the Bengals following the 2022 season. He's entering the final year of that contract now. And so it's not like they hired someone that you don't know. You know Al Golden. And so I wonder if this is strategic from Pratt's camp, knowing that could be a cap casualty. Hey, trade me and try to get something for me. The other thing that's interesting, again, is the Ian Rapoport saying that there is a market for him. If there's a market for him, then trade him. Because I do think the Bengals were cutting him. I think that's something that they had planned on, at least moving on from him. And that makes sense. I wouldn't spend huge money. You want to talk about where to spend? A lot of people are talking about receiver. Maybe don't spend huge money at linebacker, where you're spending on multiple linebackers. You're paying Logan Wilson. Maybe you don't want to spend big money on a second linebacker like Germaine Pratt. Especially someone, he had 143 tackles. I don't think he's been the same player over the past couple of years. I think 2020 and 2021, you really saw Germaine Pratt make those game-changing plays. Been far more up and down in 23 and 24, in my mind. And that's just the eye test. I'm not looking at analytics or tackle stats or whatever stat you want to throw at me. So I will say that. But yeah, if you can get a pick for him, day 3 pick, I would say. I've seen someone tweet me, give me a 4th rounder. I think that's probably a bit rich. But if you can get a 5th rounder for Germaine Pratt, 6th rounder for Germaine Pratt, whether it's to go to Indy, whether it's to go anywhere, man, I get it. I understand it. And I would do that probably if I'm the Bengals. So we'll see. I think a lot of times when these trade requests come out, you're like, oh, well, does the team want to keep him? And I think there's real discussion in the building that, can move on from Germaine. That'll be okay. Be all right if we do that. And so what his market is quite interesting. But the fact that Ian Rapoport is saying it, I'm sure that Pratt's agent has asked around the league, hey, would you trade for my guy? And if you're the Bengals, get some value. Obviously, there's a ton of discussion about paying T, paying Trey, paying Jamar Chase. I get why you wouldn't pay Pratt. So we'll see if they can get something done. Makes a lot of sense to me. We'll see if it makes sense for the Bengals. And if it does, when it does, of course, we're going to have you covered right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk, whether it's here on YouTube or wherever you're listening right now. I also have, spoiler, a video. What should the Bengals do with T. Higgins? That is coming up on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast as well. So hit that subscribe button, follow where you get your podcast. And for Andrew Fox-Miller, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Cincinnati Bengals Talk.
Patrick Mahomes dapped up his guys, but skipped Samaje Perine. I thought that was going to be...
Yeah, what is that, man?
I don't know. I watched that clip I don't know how many times. Everybody's like, oh, no, he might have been busy in his thoughts. He might have been praying something, and Patrick Mahomes didn't want to interrupt him. He stood up.
Yes.
They're like, oh, he skipped other guys. Yeah, but they were looking down. They didn't even acknowledge the situation. Samaje stood up like he was being greeted, and nothing.